All right, let's get into it. So we're going to do an interactive working session today where we're going to collaborate with some changemakers. So at your table is a changemaker organization, and we're going to work together to tackle some problems and help them move forward as an organization. But before we dive into that, I'm going to let Carolyn, I went too far. I'm going to let Carolyn do a brief introduction.
Who gave you the microphone and the clicker? So thank you, everyone. There was only 15 spots for this session, and you snapped those out very quickly, so thank you so much for joining us. Again, especially over lunch. If you had a chance to get your food before, great. But if not, there still will be time after this before the afternoon sessions start. And yes, if we haven't met, Humanity, we are with Humanity. Humanity is a full-service marketing and creative agency that was built for changemakers. So we believe that big ideas and bold visions really can shift culture and shape the future. And we are here to amplify those visions and to tell those bold stories. So we work at the intersection of strategy, behavioral science, and creative storytelling to help organizations understand who they are, what they stand for, and how they show up in the world, and how they connect to the people that matter most to them. And we believe that big ideas don't just say something, they start something. And we cannot think of a better time and place to start something than right here, right now, as we are at the Sponsorship X Changemakers Summit. So we've got 15 amazing Changemaker brains in the room with us today. We've got 3 incredible change-making organizations with us. So we're going to go on a little bit of a journey with them. At each table is one of our change-making organizations. So we'll hear about their Changemaker's journey, and then we'll together tackle some of the biggest problems that they're facing on their journey right now. And without further ado, our 3 change-making organizations. So I've written this down because I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything of the incredible work that these 3 organizations do. So at this table here, we have MAME with the Black Health Alliance. The Black Health Alliance is a community-led registered charity working to improve the health and well-being of Black communities across Canada. At our next table over here, we have the Golf Canada Foundation with Tim. The Golf Canada Foundation mission is to inspire youth to build strong core values and character while living a healthy lifestyle. And then just behind that table, we have Park Street Education, and we have Karen and Dominique at that table. They are also a registered charity committed to providing accessible after-school programs, enrichment activities, and mentorship to underserved youth. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And Ryan's going to walk us through a little bit of what we're going to do today.
Okay, I get the mic and clicker back, and hopefully I don't screw it up this time. So we're going to do 2 main exercises today that are a little brief taste of some of the work that we do every day with changemakers. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to explore and define the changemaker's journey. And the second thing that we're going to do is really hone in on a singular challenge and start to ideate and how we can help our changemaker organizations overcome that singular challenge. The changemaker's journey is a really standard journey that every changemaker goes through. It starts with identifying a really unrecognized, unmet need, something that needs to change that other people are perhaps ignoring. You see a better way forward and how you can change that. You've got a way to actually bring that to life. And then ultimately, you're committed to making a meaningful impact. So our first exercise, we're going to spend probably about 20 minutes doing this. There's worksheets at the table. Is we're going to interview our changemakers, and we're going to define their changemaker journey together by asking ourselves 4 questions. The first question is, what problem have they identified? What unmet need or systemic issue are you tackling that others may overlook? That's going to be our starting point. Then our second question is going to be, what's the new solution they've envisioned? What have you imagined as the better way forward? The third question is going to be, what initiative have they taken? So what action have you taken to bring your vision to life? And our final question is going to be lasting impact created. So what sustainable, positive change are you making in society? By answering these 4 questions, we're going to really define our changemaker's journey and understand really what they're looking to do in the world. And that's going to help us hone in on a problem in the second half and then ultimately start to ideate some solutions. So we're going to jump off stage. We're going to help facilitate. And then we're going to spend about 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back and share our changemakers' journeys.
All
All right, teams. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes, and we're going to go around each table. We'll start with our lovely Black Health Alliance table here. And we're going to take a few minutes to have a member at the table, it could be the Changemaker or anyone else, just share the Changemaker journey.
We're going to save Mame's voice today, and I can take this through this. So for problem, or actually let me give a little bit of a background. So Black Health Alliance was founded in 2000, but really it's been the past 5 years that the work has really picked up. You are 8 people, even though people think you are a much bigger team because you do so many things and work with so many organizations. You're mostly located in Toronto and the GTA, but are working on a national presence. So the problem identified is working to address inequities in Black communities, so that is access to quality care, data collection, social determinants, anti-Black racism, and there is no race-based data. I'm reading my own writing. There is no race-based data in Canada. So we talked about how in the States they do have a lot of race-based data. Canada, we don't do that. So it leaves a big hole in what we need to know. The new solution in vision. So this is to create a system where healthcare is based off the people using it. It's not a one-size-fits-all determinant. It is based on the needs of the communities, and it's co-designed with the communities themselves. The initiative taken, so they work very closely with community to provide access to healthcare, to preventative screening, to food security. They do a lot of background work, research work, policy work. They take a lot of what they hear in the communities and what communities want, and they take that away and they do that background research policy work. They then also find organizations that are already fulfilling these needs but that nobody knows about, and they're a connector of different organizations in the same spaces and connecting them to the communities that they are there to help. So the big thing is to bring organizations and people together. And then the lasting impact created. So they are the voice for the Black community, while also realizing that the Black community is not a monolith. There's many different needs throughout the Black community. They are a bridge of systems and communities. They have launched a CAMH project for Black youth that I believe you said is throughout the country. And they just encourage communities to function differently. Did I miss anything? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you, team. All right, so we're going to move over to Golf Canada. So, Tim.
Okay, so the problem that we identified is that the demographics of the sport are what you would stereotypically think of them to be: largely white, largely affluent, over-indexing for male. And so, as we know, Canada is becoming increasingly diverse, and if we do not modernize and augment the demographics of the sport, we'll be in a position where the participation base when we're trying to grow the game is actually going to contract. And so we see how technology has impacted the game through off-course golf as a potential great solution for trying to make the game more inclusive and accessible. It's less intimidating, less costly, more geographically accessible. And so it's also faster. So we see that as a tremendous opportunity to become really the gateway into the sport for those that do not currently see themselves as part of the sport as well. A lot of the, stereotypical ideas of what the culture of the game is, stuffy, etiquette, what you wear, the apparel, the attire, is not necessarily part of the culture of off-course golf, simulator golf, and so that's also something we see as a positive. So how we've tried to address this is developing a new membership product to try and build meaningful relationships with where the activity off-course is happening, which is primarily a bunch of new businesses that have popped up across the country, which are golf course simulators. And so we've created an opportunity for them to join our association and become members of our association. The value that we will deliver to them is the opportunity to promote their facilities to our audience. So it's really sort of a more tactical marketing opportunity for these facilities. But we see the broader opportunity generally for consumers is to promote off-course golf and firstly, as the governing body, endorse it in such a way that people understand if you pick up a golf club in a simulator, it is indeed golf. So ultimately, the bigger opportunity is to sort of reframe how people see and think of golf in Canada. And then once we've got the relationships with all of these facilities, the hope is we can drive much more strategic progress through participation programming, new properties that we can develop for leagues, indoor competitive events. So there's really lots of additional opportunities that exist, but we see this as kind of the critical first step of that. And obviously with the ultimate lasting impact being making the game bigger, more accessible, and opening doors to people that wouldn't otherwise be able to participate in the game in a new way. So.
Thank you so much. And we're moving over to Park Street.
So Park Street provides after-school programming to underserved youth. Park Street provides after-school programming to underserved youth in grades 4 to 12. So the problem that we have identified is there are needs from these kids that we provide our programming to where traditional school system is basically falling behind or it does not address them, especially because there's like an added layer for some of the youth who have housing instability or they are facing other areas like poverty. So what we feel is that there's like a social emotional piece in that where it goes beyond academics, and this is also related to the pandemic related learning loss. For this, the solution that we have envisioned is virtual programming, which is accessible, free, especially for kids, again, facing instability. We work with partner organizations who serve these youth, such as Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and local chapters in local areas, regional areas, children aid societies, and homeless shelters. And the solution is providing trauma-informed, culturally responsive classes where they are able to culturally responsive classes where they're able to like relate that success back to their schools. The initiative that we have taken is classes in core subjects like French, English, STEM in junior and senior, and one-on-one high school focused programming where kids are getting specialized support. And we also provide specialized programming in financial confidence and peer-to-peer classes where kids get together and they can talk about things that matter to them, anxiety, bullying, friendship, and the lasting impact that is created. We are actually trying to work towards that, but what we envision for this is that the success in regular school equals success in regular life.
Okay, thanks. So the next activity that we're going to do is we're going to focus on a singular challenge. So changemakers always face challenges on their journey. And we're going to spend some time trying to identify what that challenge each of the changemakers are facing. We're going to use an exercise that we like to do at Humanity called the 5 Whys. I think our forum's only set up for 4 Whys, so we're going to try to move through it a little bit quicker. And we're going to be asking two big questions. So the big question we're going to identify is what's the biggest hurdle that your changemakers are facing? And then we're going to pivot and spend some time looking at potential solutions. So we want to actually spend some time brainstorming some solutions for the changemakers at the table. So we're going to go through an exercise called the 5 Whys, and that's all about going below the surface and really identifying what's the root problem that we're trying to solve. So we start with our surface problem. We ask, why is that a problem? Then we ask why again. We ask why again. We ask why one more time. And hopefully by the 5th why, we've identified really what's going on and what we're trying to solve, and then we'll ideate from there. We're doing really well for time, so we're going to spend probably about 20 minutes. We'll see how everybody's doing, and then there may be time for us to grab lunch before the 2 o'clock start.
Hey everyone, I'm just going to bring everyone back. So we would want to make sure you guys get lunch before the 2. So we want to get you out of here on time or maybe a little bit earlier. So what we'll do is we'll spend 5 minutes just each table sharing what key hurdle did you get to, and then any potential solutions to tackle the hurdle. So we'll start with the Black Health Alliance team first.
Okay, so we worked through a bunch of challenges, and I think we moved on to the brainstorming before we really detailed out what the challenge is. And the big challenge is just you telling your story. Nobody knows what it is that you do. You do so many amazing things, but most of your work is behind the scenes. So you use the example of in COVID, and you were organizing clinics with Black doctors so the Black community could feel safe and come to these clinics to get their COVID shots. So even though you don't provide the actual service, you're not actual doctors providing the shot, you are organizing all of that. You are building community, you are bringing people together. But how do you tell people that? How do you talk about that when you're behind the scenes? So that is the big hurdle. So I mean, we went through politics and the pushback on DEI, but we got to, it's telling your story. So in terms of brainstorming, so the team at our table here has had lots of great examples. So we've got lots of great help here to kind of figure out what could we be doing socially, how can we build up that presence. But I think in all of that brainstorming, we also found some other hurdles, and that's maybe really defining who your audiences are. So are you speaking to the Black community and trying to bring them together to take part in the events that you're organizing? Or are you speaking to funders who will see the impact of your work and give grants and will help fund you? But then we also, part of the hurdle, I guess, in telling your story, is that you aren't just for the Black community. A lot of the work that you do, you are able to take your findings and your policies and your research, and other minority communities are able to take this and scale it within their own communities. So right now, the hurdle you're going through is, should we change our name? Because you don't want to turn your back on the community that you were founded to serve, but you do so much more than just serve the Black community. So all of that is kind of the hurdles. And then how do we tell that story? So we talked about, is it a testimonial campaign? Is it talking about the impact from your partners? What are we asking people to do? So when you are showing people events, what are we asking them to do? Do we want them to give? Do we want them to donate? So a lot of social type of things. Is it an ambassador that people will resonate with, that will listen to? Is it partnering with certain organizations? So you mentioned you had partnered with a Pilates studio before, so is it more of that and more organizations that just have well-being front and center, that have that same ethos? Yeah, so it was just different ways to start to tell your story, but also what is the story that we want to be telling? So that's where we ended up. If anything else that you wanted to add?
Honing in on our credibility. So telling our story, but also showing that we are credible in the work that we do, so that we can get other work to show more credibility.
Yeah, and so we talked about, I don't know if everyone has seen it, I think it was for Heart and Stroke, a recent campaign they came out with, showing the importance of research. And because nobody thinks about researchers, it's not sexy, it's not out there in the forefront, but a recent campaign they launched was a very emotional campaign video where they celebrated a researcher who had saved all of these kids' lives. So it's how can we get that story out, the importance of the work with something that is behind the scenes. So many ways that we could be doing that.
Thank you, team. Okay, so we're going to move over to Golf Canada. So great discussion here. So we'll start with the singular challenge. We started with the hurdle being that people don't picture themselves playing the game. And, you know, if we double click on that, it could be women, it could be more diverse communities, it could be younger people. And, you know, a lot of us know about this, but sort of why that's a problem. Golf has this legacy, this sort of country club, affluent, male-dominated field. And then Tim made the really interesting point that it's one of those sports historically that has been built where the entry point is by invitation versus by registration, which is such a great way to think about the hurdle. And so how do we, and why does that hurdle exist? So why is it invitation versus registration? People who might want to play, don't have anyone to play with. It might feel too expensive. It might be the time. And there's really not a lot of introduction on the sport happening at a grassroots level. How is it introduced? When is it introduced? It might not be seen as accessible or community driven. But then also even the introduction point is the hurdle, but it's also what do you do after? So you might try golf once, but then how do you continue that sport and that culture and the game? So we brainstormed a couple of solutions here. So one is to work with other program delivery partners like Iron Lady Golf. It was so nice to have Lindsay at our table. Similar membership model as what our Golf Canada friends are doing with off-course affiliates, funding and supporting other delivery programs, so finding some sponsorship opportunities there, turning current women and diverse players who are either going pro or really passionate about the game as advocates, and really building the brand that way, because people need to see themselves in the brand and the sport. Let's see, what else do we have here? Reframing the positioning from this exclusivity to entertainment and golf being more of a social occasion and about entertainment. Really looking at the app and figuring out how to create more connectivity, make it more social, through that Golf Canada app and other digital products. Speaking to parents that kind of have teenagers, figuring out how to run maybe family team clinics. We learned that, it's such a great opportunity for parents to spend time with their kids and framing the sport in different ways. And then evolving the app, because the Golf Canada app is used as kind of a measurement and scoring tracker, to being primarily about that, to being more about connectivity and social community. So to kind of extend the accessibility of the game and kind of drive the game. I don't know, team, did I miss anything? Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go to Park Street. Who are we sharing? Ryan?
Okay, so Park Street, we got to a root problem of a research partner. So we didn't spend time ideating around that. But how we got there was Park Street is a really neat organization that's stuck in a bit of a cycle where they need funding, but to get that funding, they need data to prove its efficacy. But to get the data to prove its efficacy, it needs funding. So they can't get the funding to prove its efficacy. So you see, we get this really bad spiral here. So the root problem that we identified that we needed to solve was a research partner that could bring academic rigor to prove the efficacy of Park Street to get the necessary funding. So what we did is we shifted back up our chain of questions to focus on funding and discussed a bunch of different ways that we can involve the students in Park Street in funding, a kind of Tom's model of buy one, give one. So starting to sell the tutoring hours, and then for each hour that is sold, 1 hour gets donated to the children who are in need. We talked about involving the students in co-creating fundraising campaigns and leveraging like an art class type of situation to see how we could get students involved to help fundraise. The Keep Kids Learning Through the Summer initiative. So this is a really interesting one. There's lots of data that shows, especially underprivileged children, slide really back during the summer. Children from affluent families go to camps. They continue to get education during the summer. But it's these at-risk youth that always fall back during the summer. So campaigns specific to ensuring that these children get access to education during the summer so they don't slide back. I think that was it. And I think the big idea was that we need to sit down and generate more ideas with a proper brief to tackle the awareness and fundraising needs. So I think that wraps us.